Today, I complete my quest, my journey, my coverage of Game Fix magazine, or Game Fix magazines, at least my journey to date, because I ran out of Game Fix magazines. And I'll put a link to all the coverage I've done so far in the description down below. But today we're looking at Game Fix number 08. And this is the last one I obtained from last Game Fix magazine I obtained, and of the ones I purchased in a bargain sale, clearance sale, whatever you want to call it, from Noble Knight. So I picked up several of these for dirt cheap, and I've covered all of them now after I finish this episode. So this, again, is Game Fix number 8. The game that's included, this is a wargame magazine, so it includes a game, and this issue's game, right, it says right there, is Joe Miranda's Greenline, Chechnya, the current conflict in Chechnya. Now, this is this magazine came out, let's see, this is number 8. Don't know if this is 95 or 96. We'll figure that out when we get inside this bag here. So this is taking place around the same time as some of the Chechnya conflict going on. So, but it is going to be somewhat, hypothetical and alt history and predictive because it's going on at the same time. But we'll look at all that when we get in here. Also, there's going to be an interview with Chris Perello. I've covered several of his games he's done several for Decision Games. He's probably done others, but some of the ones I've covered were for Decision Games, and they were like the mini games or the folio games. I've covered several of those. So let's get into this one, number 8 of Game Fix. And I don't have all of the Game Fix up to number 8. I think I was missing, number 4 and number 7 maybe. And I don't know if there's more. If anybody who knows about the history of Game Fix and how it came into being and where it went and all that, then feel free to share in the comments down below, because I'm sure everybody would like to know. But I had several of them, but I'm missing a few, if not more than a few. Let's look inside here, and we get the typical, let's see here. We have the typical departments from the podium. I think that's a new one in this one. Maybe they did it at number 7. Battle briefs is something I've seen before. Greenline, Chechnya. This is the article that's going to be the context for the game, which is kind of typical of wargame magazines. And the game itself, or here the rules are right here, the issue game. Then we have G2. That's a new and expanded industry news. And they've done industry news before. There's clarification. So this is errata for Redline Korea. Well, I covered Redline Korea, so now I have the errata for it. From game to toy, that looks like a new one. And behind the lines, Chris Perello, this is that interview. And they've done a behind the lines before where they do interviews. So there you have it. Collectible games. This is a ad for the Sacramento Consortium to sell some games, and they had that in the last issue I covered. This is published by Game Publications Group, and the editor is John Compton, I should say. John Compton. There you have it. And here's from the podium. Oh, we got some color in here. So there is John Compton right there. It says the editor center with 2 SAGA members surveying their troops' deployments on the outskirts of Stalingrad. Interesting. Okay. Battle briefs. And these are like general, there's like, as you can see, there's several topics or little snippets that are going to be in that section there. Greenline, Chechnya. This is the kind of context article for the game. It's from Joe Miranda, who is the designer. So let's see if we can tell here. Oh, I was going to tell you what the copyright date is. So this is 95. So June of 1995 is when this was published. So we're dealing with that Chechnya conflict, if you were confused. So talking about the history of some of the context now. On 10th December 1994, President Yeltsin made a final decision to attack in force. So here's where the shooting war started. So we're looking at about a year out from the first shots into having a game. So query how complete that is. And I imagine this article probably talks about that, right? Talks about what the assumptions are and what's going on, and how accurate Mr. Miranda feels his simulation may be. And here's the orders of battle, new Russian army, internal security forces. So a lot of stuff here. Interesting unboxing this now, or unbagging this now in 2023 on a conflict that was on the initial stages of Russia invading or having conflict with a region, especially with our recent Ukraine experience and seeing how the Russian forces stood up to that. The Russian forces back in 94 and 95 were much different than the forces of 2022, as we have seen. Anyway, here are the rules. Interesting, we kind of went to a grayscale. In past issues, they had full color on this annotation part, and that's something that's consistent with Game Fix Games, is they have the rules, and they'll have like an annotated section, which is either gives you examples of counters, examples of play, clarification notes, or stuff like that. So I kind of like that, but it's still kind of an interesting setup. So you have the main rules, and then you have some kind of a supplementation to it on the margins. More rules. Here's a sample unit, sample land unit. See there, got the combat strength, cohesion rating for recovery, and then movement allowance. And the combat strength is attack and defense. And with your kind of standard NATO unit there, NATO symbol. Looks like we have brigade or group and regiment are the unit size here. And we get some color over here. So, turned too quickly. Some more color here. Here's stacking, zones of control, air mobile movement, air transport. Again, this is modern combat. Logistics and supply. That's important here. Your charts are going to be in here. What I saw in Redline Korea is they put some, for the first time, at least in the games that I've gotten from Game Fix, they started putting some charts on the maps, which is kind of common now in magazine war games, to try to put as much charts on the maps because you don't have separate player aids. And whatever you don't cover in a player on the map, you have to cover inside the rules or inside the pages of the magazine themselves. So here's your terrain effects chart, reinforcement table, random events table. Then you're going to get your map. And, we got a little, I need my Game Fix. 40% savings. I don't think they'll honor that. Here's your counters, and then we'll look at the map. Counters are typical of the day. This is 1995. Thin, probably very nibby, but otherwise fine. I mean, they're dual color here. I like that. You've got the Islamic Brotherhood, Georgian Caucasus partisans, and then you have the Chechen and the Russians, I would imagine, yeah. Very nice and dual-sided. So from a functional standpoint, functionally fine. Here's your map, and again, these are not large footprints because you're going to get out your old staple puller and pop these out, and that's your map. It's just 2 pages of a magazine. Here's your track. This one doesn't have a lot of charts. It has your train key, so the charts are going to be inside the game. And so you probably need to make a copy of that if you want to have them separately out to the side as you play. There you have it. Kind of busy in some respects, but a lot of different types of terrain reflected there. There's Chechnya and Russia and the outlying areas here. Then we have some more tables. Here's your mobile table, your probe table, assault tables, and this I imagine probably this looks to have similar rules to Redline Korea. I need to read the designer notes. I wonder if these are really use the same rule set. They're both Joe Miranda games. They're both modern games. They're both somewhat hypothetical or alt history games. This one is a little bit closer to the event, where Redline Korea was purely hypothetical, as far as I know. And so I wonder if these are similar or related games, because I'm seeing a lot of, like the probe table, I'm seeing a lot of similar tables. So that's something I'll have to do some more homework on my own for that. Here's combat, battle procedure. Here's your recovery example. You've got a ground attack table. You have a psychological warfare table. I don't remember if I saw that. So you have psychological warfare table. Retreat and advance, breakthrough. Here's some scenarios. So it looks like we've got 4 scenarios: free Chechnya, rebel first strike, Caucasian liberation, war of independence. We have 4 scenarios. Here's victory conditions. Here's logistics, regular supply lines, tactical paths, Russian supply here. Some more tables, victory point chart, political points chart, victory level, reduced units and recovery. And then we're into a regular article that is part of the rest of the magazine. Several stuff there. Looks like they're talking about certain games and publishers. Here's clarification. So here's some errata for Redline Korea. I'll have to look at that. Maybe make a copy of that and throw it in the Redline Korea bag. From game to toy. Rules for scenario generation, Rebel Yell. Rebel Yell is their, I think it's their only box game or standalone type game. That's my understanding. If anybody's familiar with that, feel free to comment down below, because I am not. Behind the Lines, this is an interview with Chris Perello. I'll probably read that. And there is an ad for Rebel Yell. Normally they put that up front, but now we have an ad for Rebel Yell. $38.95, so it is a standalone game. 1,120 full-color back-printed counters, over 500 of which represent the actual forces. So, I mean, the rest are markers and leaders, so the rest are kind of administrative type stuff probably. Here's some examples of the markers. One 17 by 22 historical battle map, one 32-page rule book, 4 sheets and charts, 4 sheets of charts and tables. Man, I need a drink. 1 10-sided die. So there you go. Available now. This is $19.95. So there you have it. That is Game Fix. So there you have it. Game Fix 08, or number 08. Joe Miranda's Greenline, Chechnya. These magazines do not, the Game Fix magazines, some of my initial thoughts on them after unbagging several of these are that they're kind of like a wargame magazine light. They have all the attributes of a regular wargame magazine, in that there's an article based on the game in the issue. There's a game in the issue. All the rules and charts and separate counters are in the issue. And then there's other articles, historical and or game-related articles or departments in the magazine. So all that's there. Why do I call it Wargame Light? Well, the war games themselves, are smaller footprint. You're talking about at most a 2-page map of which is, probably 1/3 or 1/4 of some of the maps that you would get in in standard magazine war games, Against the Odds, Strategy and Tactics, World at War, Modern War when it was still around, even Wargamer or Command, Paper Wars. Those usually have bigger fold-out maps, and you're with smaller maps. Your counter set is generally smaller. Those games usually have a full page counter set in most of those games. Also comparing to the C3I type stuff as well. So the game itself looks like it's a little bit smaller, and overall they might not be as complex. That's a little bit hard for me to judge, because some of these games look, you know, of a fair complexity, especially the modern war game features. So, but they just, some of them feel a little bit reduced. Again, that one's a little bit more or subjective, and but these other ones, the size of the map encounters is a little bit more objective, I would say. And the articles are a little bit more reduced. You don't have, long articles and mini articles. There's not the same level of articles or same number of articles and the like. So that's why I call this kind of war game light. And so I don't know what happened to Game Fix. Again, if anybody knows that, please share that with us in the comments down below. And anyway, but overall, I mean, for what I paid for these, I mean, I got these really, really cheap because they were already reduced and they're on clearance and on sale. And then there was some kind of discount going on. So, I mean, I got these for bargain prices. So I'm happy with my purchase because I've got a game, I've got counters, I got maps, I've got something to push around and on topics that are different than the norm. And that's something that that is something they are consistent with other wargame magazines, is covering, not the standard fare of what you see in box games. And so I've got me some new and interesting topics to explore. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for stopping by. And the best way I know that you stopped by is drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about any of this stuff that's going on. Anyway, take care. Thanks for watching.